right, welcome back. Welcome back to another EarningsLottos Power Hour Live. I'm your host, Pete. So as you know, for the next hour, we are going to be using EarningsLottos.com to find the best earnings movers that report this afternoon. There aren't really any that report tomorrow morning, so we're going to focus more on the ones that report this afternoon. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, go to EarningsLottos.com, create an account, quick register. It takes like 30 seconds, and then you'll be able to use your phone or whatever, your tablet or whatever you use, computer, to look at the website, and you can follow along with me to look at strangles and the EL scores and that kind of thing. But as you know, I will go through all of them here as well and share my screen. So without further ado, let's get into it, because we have some spicy ones for this afternoon. First, if anyone took anything yesterday, I think we talked about like Bumble a little bit. I think Bumble was maybe the only one that did something, which is kind of disappointing to me because I don't like that stock at all. If you took calls there and you did well, congratulations. Round of applause for you. But unfortunately, yesterday there weren't really any good earnings movers. DG, very disappointing. DKS, disappointing. Build-A-Bear, extremely disappointing. That really made me mad because that was one of the higher EL scored stocks this week. But it is a cheap stock. So always something worth considering when you see a high EL score. If something is under $50, just that should raise a little red flag for you. Regardless, we have some great price stocks that report this afternoon. So I'll get into it because I ran out of time yesterday and I don't want that to happen today. So the first one we're going to look at is Rubrik. So Rubrik, more of a, I think originally it used to be, I used to have it as a financial stock, but it is definitely more of like more in the tech, cyber resilience, cyber security, and like recovery type sector. So good, decent share price, 54, almost $55 a share. That's not bad. A 10% move is about $5, so not bad, not too hateful. A decent, good expected move, right? 13%. That's good. The EL score is good. I like anything over 60 myself. 60 is my floor. Above 60, that's what I start considering for lottos. Moves over 10% in the last 8 quarters. So 8 quarters is obviously 2 years, right? If we do math. 4 moves out of 8. That's not I wouldn't say that's a must play. So Rubrik is definitely one of the more enticing stocks reporting this afternoon, but keep in mind, only 4 quarters out of the last 8 has it actually made a move of 10% up or down. And like I say often, I don't really care if a stock makes a 1 or a 2 or even like today with DG. Yeah, Dollar General has definitely moved down on earnings more often than not, but I only care if it makes a 10% move. That's the only range that's going to pay out of the money options, and really that's the only range that's going to pay options in general that are bought, unless you're selling them. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, 4 out of 8 moves is not bad. It's not terrible, but it's also not great. It's not a must play. So something to keep in mind. Because I know this one will be a crowded stock because there really aren't that many high EL scored stock opportunities to report today. Anyways, the narrative intel for Rubrik is really good. It does have a cyber hot tape, cyber and data protection. It's a data protection leader in that cyberspace. The only thing I can think of in that regard, so obviously you have like PanW, which is a cybersecurity company, Fortinet, which is another one, and obviously others out there that aren't really coming to the top of my head right now. But cyber and data protection is interesting to me. So there was an event that I don't know if many people know about that happened recently. I think it was this week. But the company Stryker, which I think they specialize in something to do with healthcare data, but that ticker is SYK. So Stryker was hacked, and they say it was like an Iranian-based hacking team that hacked Stryker. I want to say that nothing was too detrimental to Stryker, so don't go out there buying like crazy puts on SYK. But when I see data protection and I see like data resilience and kind of like a focus on cyber security, those two narratives kind of make sense to me in my head. So there might be something there. There's relevance with like that kind of like hacking and that kind of thing going on right now, especially with geopolitical BS happening around the world. So something to keep in mind. RBRK or Rubrik, like this could actually be a useful technology going forward, right? If we're going to see more hacks and that kind of thing, cyber warfare, so to speak. So good narrative intel. I really like that for RBRK. The strangles that we're pulling out on the website, so the 60, as you can see, the 65 call is getting lit up today. It expires next week. It looks like RBRK only has monthlies, which I always like personally. Keep in mind that monthly or that OPEX is next week. That's when options expiration is. 65 call, 18.5% out of the money. It's a little ambitious to me. It's a little too far. We're kind of into that sold call territory at more than 15% out of the money. But the contract price at $1.55, it could kind of go either way. I kind of see that, I mean, there's a ton of volume, right? 17,000 contracts were bought and sold today versus 630 that were just waiting there on the chain. So I could kind of see that volume going either way, maybe a mix of bought and sold. I think the 65 call is too far out of the money for myself personally. So this I would imagine the majority of these are sold, but nonetheless, that volume over open interest is definitely interesting to me. The 50p, so this is a little bit more of a realistic bot situation, I would say. Not more than 9% out of the money down. Good contract price at 250, 249. That implies to me that they're probably bought. But there's not a ton of volume. There's no volume over open interest, but not even a ton of volume on that 50p today. So maybe I don't know if I would pair these two together per se, but if I was, I would say the 50p is probably bought. The 65 call is probably sold. But it could really go either way. That's a ton of volume on that 65 call. I don't think I'm going to play Rubrik myself. I'll come back to it. I can't really make up my mind right now. But I would say looking at this, it kind of looks like some anticipation on some downside, really. Like this 249, it looks to me like it's bought. But I don't know, that 17,000, that's a ton of volume. So I don't know. I'll come back to this. I'm kind of undecided on it right now. Maybe it's worth getting a 65 call. I would imagine the majority of this is sold. So I'll come back to Rubrik. But I do like Rubrik for a move today. If I had to choose like three stocks today, it would be Rubrik, Adobe, and then probably Alta. That's just me. So yeah, Rubrik, undecided. I would say it looks to me like a small move down right now. And it looks to me like those calls are being sold. But I'll come back to it. We'll have enough time today for sure. Adobe. So everyone knows Adobe, great share price, about $270 a share, which I like there because a 10% move is going to be about $27, almost $30 there. The expected move, not great, not terrible. EL score, so 58, that's hovering there right on my personal threshold for whether or not I take an earnings play. Like I said, 60 is my floor, so to speak. So 58 is close enough to where I could consider something here for Adobe. Same thing with Rubrik though. Like 4 out of 8 moves, it's not really a must play, nor is it really like an auto fade. So obviously it's middling there. But not bad. 4 out of 8 is not bad at all. Good narrative intel for Adobe. I think everyone knows kind of what Adobe focuses on. I use Adobe products. I use Acrobat every day. I use Photoshop not every once in a while, every week when I put together the calendars and that kind of thing. So I think Adobe is still relevant. And there's definitely like a focus on AI with Adobe. So I want them to say, if you're bullish, you want them to say something in regards to how they're incorporating AI in Adobe products. We'll look at the strangles for Adobe. I like these. I like these as like as a straight up bot strangle. The 300 call, a little bit more than 10% out of the money, expiring tomorrow, $1.35 a contract. Really good volume over open interest. Almost twice the amount of contracts were bought and sold today versus what were just sitting there on the chain. So I like that. And this contract price, like the same thing with the Rubric 65 call, it could go either way. I think it's probably a mix of bought and sold, but if it were more than 10% out, let's say if it were 15%, 20% out of the money, then I could definitely see this being a sold position. But right now, I can't really, it's hard to say. I would say it's probably a mix. Now the 250p being no more than 8% out of the money down at $2.09 a contract, that to me looks like they're bought. That's good volume over open interest. 1,700 contracts bought and sold today versus 1,600 that were just sitting there on the chain. I think the 250 is bought. If I had to guess, it's this is a very similar setup to Rubric to me. I can't really make up my mind right away on it. It looks like traders are probably hedging to the downside, which is probably why we're seeing these closer to the money puts coming in. And then they're kind of just like tickling out of the money calls, right? Like on the Rubric 65 call, like they're just like, well, let's see, maybe it hits that. But I'm going to be safe and hedge it with a close to the money put. And the same thing is the same for Adobe. The 300 call is getting a lot of attention. Maybe I'll tickle the 300 call a little bit, but then also just like hedge myself and protect downside with the 250p. So that's what it looks like to me. I'm not quite sure if Adobe is going to make a big move. But I would say this is, if you haven't played anything this week, and you've been like myself, I've been waiting for today to trade something. I might get that Adobe 300 call. But I don't know. It's so hard to kind of figure out exactly where this is going today. But yeah, I'll come back to Adobe too, I guess, in a little bit. But I would say this looks to me like a downside move. They're protecting the downside a little bit, but they're also just tickling like out of the money calls. So I would say also Adobe probably look at the downside as well there. But maybe get like a 300 call, right? $1.35, $135 a contract is not that much. So I think that's probably what people are thinking. We'll look at Veritone, very, very cheap stock. I don't like the cheapies at all. Good EL score on it. AI disruption, sure. They could launch or dip. Yeah. So here's the thing. Okay, so for anything that you buy on a Thursday, I would recommend to buy next week expiration. Yeah, totally X project. Buy next week expiration just to be safe. And especially with the fact that next week is OPEX, right? Like usually on OPEX weeks, there's a lot of chop and kind of indecision. But I like buying the time on Thursdays just so that we avoid that. If there's any chop or indecision tomorrow, hopefully, or we'll trust that the move plays out the following week. So any Thursday, I'll buy next week expirations. Anyways, I'm definitely gonna trade something today. So in a second, or after I'm done looking at all these, I'll look at my phone and call out the specific contracts I get myself. But regardless, yeah, Veritone, good history of moves over 10%. So 7 out of the last 8 quarters, it's made a 10% move up or down, which we like in EarningsLottos. Not the best narrative intel, getting the caution sign. It looks like there might be a thin float plus like an AI label. So there's a little bit of a chaos risk here, according to our narrative. The strangles that we're pulling in are not attractive at all. There's not enough volume for me here. There's not even more volume than over open interest. I don't like that. This 2P is 30% out of the money down. That's way too far down. The 3 call is a little bit more realistic, but it's only 22 cents a contract. So unless you're buying 10 to 20 contracts, you're not really gonna see a huge return here. So I would say Veritone is a safe fade. I don't really like anything there, even though it does have a good history of moves. I think I'd be forcing something if I played or traded that. So we'll move on and look at Service Titan. Service Titan does, I want to say they do software that helps like contractors, if you're like a plumber or like an electrician or something. Service Titan would be a piece of software that helps you manage your book of business, manage appointments, and that kind of thing. Very similar, or not very similar, but somewhat similar to like an Angie type service. Good share price for Service Titan, right? 76.50 a share. That's good. 10% move is $7 up and down. The EL score is, I would say, good, not great. Like I said, my threshold is 60, so 48, somewhat close, but it's not a total fade, nor is it a must play. 3 out of the last 8 quarters, it's made a good move of 10% up or down. Narrative intel, so this is definitely a sleeper re-rate. If we get good guidance on Service Titan, multiple names could gap hard off of it. Obviously, it would too, but that's interesting to see that we're kind of getting like a sleeper narrative intel for Service Titan. Oh wow, this is interesting. Okay, so the 80 call is getting lit up today really well. 4% out of the money, so that's obviously within a 10% move. Titan or TTAN has monthlies, so you're going to be safe buying a next week contract. You're going to have to pay up, it looks like, right? $3.20 a contract. That's $320 for one contract. So not exactly my personal lotto price range, but maybe some others if you have a different portfolio than I do. Good volume over open interest. That shows immediacy. It shows that traders were anticipating TTAN earnings today. They came in, they bought and sold 1,500 contracts versus 500 that were on the chain. The 75 put is very close to the money. Obviously, the closer to the money, the more premium that contract is going to be. So it's 390, but pretty close in price to the 80 call. And the volume, the volume is not higher than the open interest. I would say Service Titan definitely looks like a bull. This looks like a bullish strangle to me. I would imagine that the 80 call is bought. There's great volume over open interest, and traders are probably hedging with the 75p. Now this one, so I would say bullish. I would say bullish for Service Titan. For this one, because it only has 3 moves over 10% out of the last 8 quarters, this is not an auto strangle candidate. This is not one that that I would suggest buying both sides. I think you're safe buying just one of these sides. I think the 80 call, like I said, it's a little higher in premium. So if you can swing that, I think the 80 call is a good lotto for today. I think anything higher than a 90 call, you're probably looking at maybe some theta burn happening. I don't know if it'll reach that high, but this is interesting to me that the 80 call is getting lit up like that. So Service Titan, I like the calls there. I like the 80 call. I don't know if I would go higher than 90. Maybe if they have 82.50 or an 85, I like that range. So yeah, Service Titan, I like the calls there. Funko. So Funko, which obviously does like those Funko Pop little things, like the little statuettes you can buy at like Spencer's or wherever. I don't know where they sell Funkos nowadays, probably online. But yeah, decent or not decent, actually really low share price for Funko. I was going to say decent EL score, which we like. Very, very cheap stock itself. So if you do play Funko, because it has a decent history of moves over 10%, 5 out of 8's not bad. It's something that traders probably, like, you guys might have Funko Pops like on your desks at work or whatever at home. So if you have conviction in the stock in the company and you like it, I think it's fine to play in earnings. I would just play something closer to the money. When you're looking at like a cheap stock like this, like take NEO, for example. NEO was trading around like $5 or something like that before earnings. You don't want to go more than like 50 cents or like $1 out of the money. You don't want to do that, because then you're just looking at getting yourself in chop territory. So Funko, go close to the money if you play it. Narrative intel on Funko is not the greatest. We're getting the caution sign on that. And the strangles that we're pulling up they're not appealing at all to me. The 5 call, 15% out of the money. I think that's too, like I said earlier, I think that's too much. I think if you play a cheap stock, you have to go close to the money or in the money. And it doesn't hurt to do that, right? Like if you buy an in the money call for Funko, if the 5 call, which is 14% out of the money, is 35 cents, the 4 call, right? Because Funko's trading at 436, the 4 call is probably no more than $1. So why wouldn't you buy the in the money contract, right? I don't understand it myself, but that's what I would say. I would say buy an in the money or very close to the money call. I think 5 call is too far out. That open interest is crazy though. There's a ton. There's 16,000 contracts on the chain that were bought previous in anticipation of earnings or in anticipation of something else, and a lot of these could be sold too. So something to keep in mind. Now the 2.5 put, 43% out of the money. I mean, obviously there's like no volume, no open interest. So I don't know what's going on with that contract. I don't like it at all. But I would say Funko is. I would probably suggest fading it. Although this open interest does pique my interest. So like I said before, if you have conviction in the company, if you have a ton of Funko Pops and you see like maybe Funkos turn into Furbies, right? Remember how like Furbies got like that weird valuation to them, or Beanie Baby type things? Maybe dabble in some Funko calls. But I would go closer to the money. I think 5 is too ambitious. So Funko fade for me. But if you like the company and have conviction, in the money or very close to the call is not a bad idea. Zoomies. So Zoomies, they do. I see it all the time in like the mall, but like like merch. Yeah, like merch. I think they have shoes and that kind of thing. Not really a brand that I I myself would get into, but I do know that it's popular. So that's why it's there. Current price, not really great. I would consider this too cheap for me. I don't like anything under $50 a share myself. Not a bad EL score, and that has a lot to do with the amount of moves it's made, over 10% in its history. So out of the last 2 years, it's done a 10% move up or down 4 quarters, which is good, not great. Obviously in the middle there. Narrative Intel is not the greatest on Zoomies. Definitely more of a consumer grinder. Usually moderate moves unless the guide shocks hard, which I can't think of anything that would make it shock hard, so to speak. We'll look at the strangles that we're pulling in for Zoomies, and I don't like this because there's not a lot of volume and open interest. So I would say Zoomies is probably a safe fade. Although it looks like people are trying to trade it for some reason or another. So for what it's worth, the 25 call has 22 contracts that were bought and sold today, but that's nothing because the contracts are 70 cents a pop. So I would say Zoomies is probably a safe fade for sure. We in here. What up, Court? The next one we'll look at is Sentinel-1. So Sentinel-1, another cybersecurity company. X Project. I know you mentioned cybersecurity stuff earlier. I don't know if I would. So for PanW, right? I think like playing Zscaler, CrowdStrike, FTNT. I think something like that makes sense. For Rubrik, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure if that connection is there yet. That's just me kind of thinking about like data protection and data resilience and cyber resilience. Maybe Rubrik does say something in their earnings report or in their like future guidance, and they allude to cybersecurity companies. But I wouldn't say RBRK is a direct sympathy play to something like Zscaler, Palo Alto, CrowdStrike, Fortinet. But maybe it becomes one, right? Like maybe because it is kind of a newer stock, maybe they do say something in their guidance that alludes to it. So maybe you might be onto something there. I think that's a little bit more of a if you've done your DD and you've done research in that regard, then play it. If you have the conviction, then play that. But I don't know if that connection is quite like solidified quite yet. But anyway, Sentinel-1, so another cybersecurity type company. Very, very cheap shares, $14 a share. Not a bad EL score at 45. A good history of moves, 5 out of 8 quarters, it's done a good move. But I like to see if something is a cheap stock, I like to see more moves over 10% in the last 8 quarters. If something is cheap, it should be making moves at least 10%. What's a 10% move off of $14? Like maybe like $2, something like that. So it should be making those moves. And when a cheap stock doesn't have a good history of moves over 10% out of the last 2 years, that just raises a little red flag for me. I like the narrative intel for Sentinel One. Oh, did they get bought out? Oh, interesting. I like so maybe this is a fade. We'll look at the strangles. Maybe this is a fade on earnings. Yeah, it looks like they're selling them. But yeah, narrative intel is good for Sentinel One. Cyber security is usually choppy, but if they have good EPS billings or if they have good guidance, it could rip either way. This strangle to me looks like a sold strangle. So X project, if that's true and then got bought out, usually stocks just kind of tend to flatline for a while. EA flatlined for a while, and earnings moves. It reported earnings. It was still a stock that was out there, but it just didn't do much on earnings. So I think you're right, X project. I think you're on the right track here. It looks to me like these are sold positions. Ton of volume over open interest on the 1550 call. Just a little bit more than 10% out of the money. And there's good volume over open interest on the 1250p. So this to me looks like a classic sold position. I don't think traders, it doesn't look like traders are anticipating a meaningful or wild move from S at all. So I think S is a safe fade. It looks like they're selling there. We'll look at Nectar Therapeutics. I don't know anything about this company, but again, when I was kind of doing the research over the weekend, it's one that just stood out to me for some reason. I don't know why. Looks like they are a bio company. They focus in immunotherapy, developing medicines in the field of immunotherapy, pipeline products. So this might have like some FDA juice to it. Those bio stocks, they could have a lot of FDA catalysts which help or hurt them. Good share price, about $70 a share, but 69, very nice. Decent expected move. EL score, I would say, is not the best. And there is only 1 quarter out of the last 8 it's made a move of 10% up or down. So immediately that's kind of off my list. No narrative intel for this one. And the only strike that kind of looks interesting to me is this 70 call, very, very close to the money. Again, Nectar, it looks like they have monthlies. So this to me looks like they're probably bought. And the 60p being cheap. Not a ton of volume. Excuse my cat, he's making noise. Not a ton of volume, but some decent open interest. And 13% out of the money down. So I think I think the 60p is sold. This to me looks like a hesitantly bullish strangle, but I would say fade Nectar. Keep an eye on it because it is in that bio realm. So going forward in the future, like if there's FDA catalysts, this might be a good one to kind of keep an eye on. But I think for earnings this time, it's a safe fade, and I feel okay saying that. We'll look at Kodak. So Kodak has been like pretty quiet recently or in recent years. I don't know how long ago this was. I might be dating myself here, but 5-ish years. There was a time when Kodak, they had some sort of crazy news and it popped. It was like a meme stock for a while. It was very akin to like BlackBerry. It might have been around the same time that like BlackBerry made a weird move. So Kodak has definitely made really weird moves before, albeit it's a cheaper stock, so $7 a share. Not the best EL score, a decent expected move, but a 15% move off of $7 is kind of meaningless, maybe like $1 or $2. Not even 2. 4 out of the last 8 quarters, it's made a 10% move up or down. Narrative intel is not great on Kodak, so I don't like that. And the strangles we're pulling in are not attractive at all. 750 call, not more than 10% out of the money. I don't even know what's going on here with these people. And the put is way too far out of the money down, 5p, very, very, very cheap. So I would say Kodak is a fade. I think getting into something like this on earnings, you're just straight up gambling. But there are way better options to gamble on today. So Kodak, a fade. We will look at Ulta. So Ulta kind of speaks to me. I like Ulta as an earnings stock. It has made, even though it only has made a 10% move up or down in the last 8 quarters, those 3 moves have been pretty good. So Ulta is, for some reason, I kind of think of it as very similar to Lulu. So Lulu doesn't really have a great history of moves over 10%. But when it does move on earnings, it really makes some crazy moves. So Ulta piques my interest just in that regard, but definitely not a must play because it has only done that 3 times out of the last 2 years. Narrative Intel is interesting on Ulta. It's definitely a consumer sleeper. As you guys know, ELF stock is a really good earnings play that has a pretty high EL score, one of the highest, I would say. And ELF is another beauty stock that makes crazy earnings moves. I think ELF tanked. Didn't it tank this quarter, last quarter, or the quarter before? One of the more recent quarters, ELF tanked. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Oddity, which is another beauty stock, that tanked. That really tanked. ODD. Or actually, I think it was this quarter. Oddity really tanked. So maybe there's something there with beauty. Maybe the beauty allure of these stocks is kind of running its course. I don't really know. I don't use makeup myself, so I have no idea what's going on in that world. But I do know Ulta is a very popular makeup brand, similar to e.l.f. And other makeup brands that I can't think of because I don't use makeup. But there is, like you see in the narrative intel, this can definitely gap either way on margin outlook or or past EPS. The strangles that we're pulling in, so this disappoints me because these look like they're sold to me. But I don't know why I kind of have a feeling for Ulta today. And these are cheap enough to where, and they're not more, I mean, the 715 call, a little bit more than 10% out of the money. That's not too crazy. It expires tomorrow. Kind of a cheaper contract, $1.49. Good volume over open interest. That's interesting. The 560p, 11% out of the money. $1.50 contract, good volume over open interest. I might strangle Ulta, to be completely honest. I might get one of the, or I'm going to look at next week's strikes in just a minute when I place orders, but I might get an Ulta strangle. I like this look. I don't like that it's only done a 10% move 3 times out of the last 8 quarters. So it's not a must play, but I do kind of like buying maybe one contract of each. So I'm going to put a pin in that. We're going to come back to Rubrik and Adobe, but I kind of like the Ulta strangle. Let's see. We'll look at Lennar. So Len is a home builder, very similar to like Toll Brothers. I was going to say Home Depot and Lowe's, but not very similar to those at all. But yeah, similar to like Toll Brothers, a home builder in that regard. Good share price, $94 a share. Terrible EL score, not a great expected move. No moves out of over 10% in the last 2 years. So immediately, this is kind of like off my list. This is a complete fade. If you see someone playing Len out there, if you know someone playing Len, please tell them not to. Please pull them aside and say, hey, this has a terrible EL score. This has not ever made a move over 10% in the last 2 years. I know you think the housing market is trash, bro, but just don't do it. Don't do it. So yeah, Len is a classic fade candidate. The 100 call, 5% out of the money, 30 cents. Like there's good volume over open interest today on that, but this and actually almost about the same volume over open interest on the 90p. So this is a classic sold position to me. I don't see Len doing anything tomorrow. Maybe a very small move up, maybe a very small move down. But Len is a classic fade candidate for sure. We'll look at this company, which I don't know anything about. So Corvus Pharmaceuticals, looks like they're a clinical stage bio, developing precisely target proteins that are critical to immune cell maturation and function. It's product candidate. I'm not even going to pronounce this word. What is this word? Sequinalidibid? Sequelitinib. I have no idea. It's designed to specifically bind to a protein, interleukin. I don't know what any of this is, but it seems like they are another bio type company. So again, like there's FDA catalyst, there's FDA juice in that regard. Share price is really low. EL score is really low. There's no grade for stocks under $25 a share, but I still give everything an EL score. 2 quarters out of the last 8, it's made a 10% move, so that's not really great. Narrative intel is not great on it. Looks like there's event risk on it, high variance move profile, so I don't like that when it gets a caution sign. And the strangles that we're pulling in are not attractive at all either. So I think CRVS is a fade candidate too, but maybe one to keep an eye on after. Maybe when you're kind of doing you're looking through the news tomorrow morning and that kind of thing, looking at what the numbers were for everything. Check out CRVS, check out their earnings and their future guidance. Maybe there's something there in the future, but I would say for this earnings, it's a fade. Wheaton Precious Metals, I'm not gonna look at that. No moves over 10% in the last 2 years. We'll look at PagerDuty. PagerDuty, very cheap stock, $7, bad EL score. 3 out of 8 quarters, it's made a good move, 10% up or down, which is, it's meh, it's okay. Narrative intel is good on PagerDuty. It looks like it's a sleeper re-rate. Guidance and any commentary in regards to NRR can move it. The strangles that we're pulling in are these are too far out of the money to even consider for me. So 10 call, 37% out of the money up, way too cheap of a contract. It's definitely sold territory. 5P, way too cheap, way too far out of the money down. A lot of open interest, but I would say a lot of this open interest is probably on the bid, so probably sold. So PD, I think, is a good fade candidate. I don't expect it doing anything crazy for earnings. I would say ignore it, move on to bigger and better things. TBCH, no moves out of the last 8 quarters over 10%. This is not Turtle Beach. But I would say this one's a fade as well. Not really seeing anything enticing there with the strangles. Pew or Grab a Gun. This is one of the Trump kids stocks or companies. I want to say they have like their whole thing is you can buy like guns online or something. I have no idea. But Pew, I can't remember what the ticker it started out as. It didn't start out as PEW. Started out as something else, but there was a lot of interest, a lot of excitement on this stock. And as you can see from the 90-day chart, and even before, if this chart went out past 90 days, this is just such a trash company and trash stock. So I don't think it's worth monitoring or looking at all. Only one move over 10% in the last 8 quarters. If you're playing something like this, it's just a complete gamble. I think you're throwing money away. I would totally fade this. So don't like anything with Pew. And then for tomorrow morning, nothing really to look at. We got Better Home and Finance, no moves over 10% in the last 8 quarters. Kind of a cheaper share. So I would say this one is a fade, although I do have it on the website. The Buckle, so BKE, looks like a retailer of casual apparel. I think they do like denim and that kind of thing, or that's kind of what they focus on. Share price, good, not great. Bad EL score, and again, no moves over 10% in the last 8 quarters. So immediately off my list. So while we have time, I want to go back and look at Rubric again and kind of consider it a little bit more. So Rubric, the 65 call, now there's a little bit more volume than there was, I think, before when we looked at it. I want to see what the 65, and excuse me while I check out my phone here for a second, but I'm just curious if these are bought or sold. We'll get a good look here in just 1 second. But if a lot of those are bought, then it might be worth taking a gamble on one of those calls. I just think that they're probably sold. Okay, so there was a huge order today on the 65 call, and of course it's going to come up as no side because why would you want to tell us which side it was? That's not fun. So yeah, that's a huge order. It was a looks like it was a $2.6 million order. So 16,000, a little bit more than 16,500 contracts were either bought or sold. So even the flow apps aren't really giving us a good idea on what that is. I'm going to look at the contract chart though. If the contract chart looks good, then there's a chance they might be bought. Was it the 20th? Yeah, it's the 20th. If you guys have any questions in the chat, anything you want me to look at, any contract charts you want me to look at, because I do think that and that's something I haven't built into the website yet is contract charts, but there is something there with contract charts. Not a lot of people focus on those or look at them, and I think that is a pretty big missed opportunity. The contract chart for RBRK, the 65 call. I don't know. This could go either way. I don't think it's a bad idea buying one contract. I don't think it's a bad idea. Looking at the contract chart, there is some hope for it. It doesn't look terrible. So I think maybe buying. I would go. I don't know if I would go 65 call. I would go as close to the current price as you can, and that's as budget friendly as you can with your own portfolio. But that's not that bad. I wonder what the 67 looks like. I don't like the 67 call look at all. So I would say that the 65 call doesn't look terrible. I think if you wanted to dabble in maybe just one contract, I think that's not a bad idea. But keep in mind that RBRK does not have an automatic history of moves over 10%. So as this is something that I talk about a lot, but EarningsLottos are lottos. They're lottery tickets. We can't really get mad at lottos if they fail, because that's exactly what it is. It's just a lotto. And as you guys know, earnings moves can make pretty crazy moves just sporadically. But like I said, if you haven't played anything all week, I think maybe getting one contract of this 65 call is maybe not a bad idea. I do want to look. Actually, let me look at the 50 put and see what that contract chart looks like, if it's any better. And it's hard to say. I would say I think the 65 call looks like the better side here. I don't think you have to strangle this per se. If I did strangle it, I might do it with like a 47p. So yeah, maybe a rubric strangle. Let's look at what was the other one I kind of looked at. Oh, I kind of liked. Well, let's look at Adobe just since it's right here, because I know people are focused on Adobe today. PanW was the one in talks to buy it. Oh, so they're just in talks to buy it. Maybe they haven't actually bought it yet. That would be interesting. I don't really know if Sentinel would come out and say that they were bought. Like, I don't know if that's an announcement they would make during an earnings call, though. It seems like usually purchases are announcements that are made outside of earnings or right before earnings, just to kind of mess with you. But yeah, I think if they do get purchased, they would have said by now before earnings, or they'll say outside of the earnings window. Adobe, yeah, let's look at this. So the 300 call for Adobe. Let's see if that is bought or sold. It's this week. Let's see. I mean, it's a mix. It's all over the place. There's a lot on the bid. There's a lot on the ask. This might just be like a classic strangle. Like, I think that's what we were saying earlier. It could just be people are buying contracts on either side in hopes that it makes a move. What's the other one? The 250p. 250p is a little bit pricier. To me, it looks like there's more bought on the put side for Adobe, which is, I think, what I was saying earlier, which I think I kind of like the downside a little bit more for Adobe. So yeah, to me personally, that's what it looks like. I want to look at the contract charts for Adobe, see if there's anything interesting there. Let's see the 250p. What does that look like? 250p, a little pricey. Not not terrible actually. There's definitely some hope to this. This thing could definitely still work by tomorrow. I kind of like that. But it's such a gamble. This would just be a straight up gamble. It doesn't have a history. If it was like a 6 or a 7 mover, 6 out of 8 quarters or 7 out of 8 quarters, I would say it's a must play. But there might be something going on here with the 250p. Interesting. I kind of like the look of it. If it does work, then you're gonna be happy because it looks like the contract can get to like a $6 plus range. Really quick now, let's look at Alta. Yeah, we got more than enough time. We got 14 minutes. Alta and the contracts that we're finding for that, the 715 and the 560. So Alta, did Alta? Oh man, I feel like the last time I looked at Alta today it was at 640. It's at 624 now. That's crazy. I like literally I feel like I just looked at this like an hour ago and it was 640. And now it's 624. Huh. Interesting. The 560p. Did I say the 560p? Yeah, see the 560p is more expensive than what's showing on the website right now. I like the Alta puts. I think this looks good. I don't think that I don't think they're too. Yeah, I like the Alta put side for sure. The 560 is 10%. I kind of like the 560p for Alta. I don't think you have to strangle it. I think if you do strangle it, so if you do strangle something like this, do a skewed strangle. And if you don't want to do a skewed strangle with more contracts on one side, like the 560p, I would say that looks good. And then if you don't want to pay, actually, yeah, maybe get one of the 715 calls. Like $1.20 is not bad at all. And actually, they're probably cheaper now because, yeah, like they're cheaper now than $1.20. It looks like the last trade was $1.07. So I like the Alta puts. That 560p is interesting to me. I'm gonna buy one of those. Oh, actually, let me look at next week's. So the next week puts for Alta, what's got the best volume and open interest? 485 is too far out of the money down. Maybe like the 530p for next week. That one looks like the best the best option if you're gonna buy some time. Yeah, I kind of like that. That's interesting. So yeah, I kind of do like the Alta. The Alta. Oh yeah, I'll play Pick'em. Oh for sure. Oh, I made money on DG. Let's go. And I don't know if anyone was watching yesterday, but I was trying to place my DKS down bet, and I ran out of time. Like literally at 4 p.m., the website cut me off. So that was I got lucky there. I dodged a bullet. But yeah, DG down. We got it. So I think I'm 2 for 2 this week. DG, and then I literally can't remember the other one. But yeah, I'm 2 for 2. Let's go. Alta, I like the puts on Alta. I'm gonna buy, but you know what? I'm gonna go against my rule. I'm not gonna buy March 20th. I'm gonna buy March 3rd. I'm gonna buy a tomorrow contract. I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna buy the 560. So I'm going to buy the 560p and I'll buy the 715 call. Just because I can. All right. So let's do that. So what did I say? The 715. I'm going to get one of those. One of those. 715. Super cheap. Please give it to me at 110. I don't want to pay 170 for it. Yes. All right. So I got one of each. I actually get the 570 put. So whatever. Yeah, I kind of like that. Okay. So that I like. I like the Alta Strangle. I like the put side a little bit more. Now, can we do... let's cancel that. Okay, yeah. So yeah, Alta Strangle is in 570p and the 715 call. And then do I want to get a Rubric 65 call? I don't know. Let me look at Rubric. We got 9 minutes. Yeah, let's go, Court. Let's do Alta. YOLO. You only live once. Money is fake. YOLO. And we do it for the love of the game. Rubric does have kind of a weird look up to like 66, 70. All right, you know what? What's the March 20th 65s? That's the one that was getting interest, right? The next week. Oh, a Rubric has weeklies too, but the website was just picking up next week contracts anyways. The 66 call this week just got hit for 100. Let's see. See, this is what happens to me. Then I start going down rabbit holes. But yeah, let me look at that really quick. If that 100 sized order was bought on the this week 66 call. 66. Open. They were sold. Someone just sold 100 contracts on the bid of the 66 call. It's not that much though. It's only $7,000. I'm gonna fade Rubric. I don't like that. I'm gonna fade RBRK. So I am going to fade it. I don't know what's going on with that big 65 call order for next week. Maybe it's a half and half. Maybe it's a call spread. If you are ballsier than I am, then I think getting some Rubric calls is not a bad idea. I just that 66 call order scared me off, even though it was like a very small order. But I'm gonna fade RBRK. But don't, like, when you watch these and everything, like, don't do what I'm doing. Don't do the exact same thing. Like, I love when we all take the same plays and everything. I am a very, very picky and conservative trader myself. So I often fade a lot of things that make crazy moves. But I trade based on the numbers, right? That's why I put together the EL score. That's why we calculate the number of moves over 10% in the last 2 years. That's kind of why I've developed all this, because I'm a very safe trader myself. But if you're not, and you're risky, and you like to risk it for the biscuit, 65 call Rubric, not a bad idea. The Adobe, did I make up my mind with Adobe? I don't think I'm going to trade Adobe. I think that one is going to be one that I also fade. But I just want to look at the 300 call really quick. What does that contract chart look like? Not bad, actually. Like, there's some hope to this one too. And I don't know. What's the other one? 250p, and then I'll do my pick'em. I think the Adobe put side looks better. Like, just contract chart wise, I think the Adobe put side looks better, but not enough for me to buy it or strangle it. So I'm just gonna get but I wouldn't be surprised if Adobe tanks tomorrow. I would not be surprised. What's up, Court? Tariffs. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, there's just so much like weird geopolitical stuff happening right now outside of tariffs. I feel like people forgot about tariffs. I don't know if that tariff headline like even moves stuff anymore, right? Everything is so oil manipulated and motivated right now. But I think Adobe is a fade for me. But I do think the put, something is going on there. So if you got a bigger portfolio than I do, maybe dabble in some Adobe puts. I don't think that's a terrible idea. But for me, I'm just going to do the Ultra Strangle, which I have. So the 570p for this week and the 715 call. So not a crazy strangle, and that's my only earnings strangle this week, which I like. I like to play it like that. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, that's a lotto. Money is fake. Who cares? Now let's look at the pick'em. What do we have for today? Oh, it's Adobe, of course. 500 pick'em. We got to look at the leaderboard. You want to see the leaderboard after yesterday? Look at this Timbo flip guy. Who is this guy? 19,000. We started with 10,000 like 3 weeks ago. He's at 19K now. What did he do? Look at this man. Oracle, that's what it was. How did I forget Oracle? Oracle, this man put 5,000 on Oracle up. Talk about conviction. What a stud. Yeah, whoever this Timbo guy is is an absolute beast when it comes to picking earnings moves. And he has Adobe down. You know what? I'm going to follow Timbo. Timbo knows what's up. I also like the Adobe down contracts. I'm going to protect because I got DG right and I got Oracle right. Like I'm not as ballsy as Timbo is. I'm going to do 500. But I do like the down. And you can see like it looks like the majority of EL Bucks money is on Adobe up, but I like the down. We'll make that a little closer. So yeah, 500 on Adobe down for EL. Pick 'em. Please, earnings God, let me climb the leaderboard. I'm in 17th place. Well, now I'm in 17th after that bet. But that's so, like, this is so depressing. This is so depressing for me. Imagine making a game and then you're bad at it. Tight. But no, in all seriousness, so I am only taking the Alta Strangle. I like the downside there. The Adobe, I like the downside there, but I don't think it's a must play. Rubric, maybe dabble in some 65 calls, but make sure you buy time. There was a really big order on the RBRK 65 call for March 20th. Unfortunately, the market makers don't want to let us know if it was bought or sold. But I think, like I said, if you're a cowboy trader, maybe dabble in some of those calls. That being said, I will wrap it up for today. Fantastic time, ending with 3 minutes to go. As always, if you enjoy this content, if you like the live streams, please let me know by liking the video, throw me a comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, make an account on EarningsLottos, play EL Pick'em with us. Look at the deep dive, all the stocks. I'll have a new deep dive updated on probably Saturday afternoon for next week's stocks. So the more the merrier. Everything on EarningsLottos.com is free. I just may send you an email every once in a while and give you a reminder on how you can support me. But I do this because I love earnings. I do it for the love of the game. I love making you guys money. I love when you guys hit earnings bangers. So that's why we do this. All that being said, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Happy Friday Eve. And have a great weekend. I will see you next week, Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Peace, everyone.